I'm going to demonstrate how to use events to execute functions, and I'm using the code that I used in the function video. So we have two functions here, display heading and display sum. So here's our display heading and here's our display sum, and we call these functions using these statements right here. This is a function call, this is another function call. So what I wanted to demonstrate is how you might do this using a button. So let's say, for example, you have, I'll create an H1 here, and in the H1, let's make it an empty H1. So let's make our goal to have a button that when you click it, calls the display sum function, and you want the answer to display inside of the H1. Not inside of the console, right? So it's going to show inside of the console here, but you wanted to add some functionality to display here as well. So we'll do both things. So here's my H1, and I'm going to give the H1 an ID, and I'll just call it sum. And then I'm also going to add a button. Okay. And I'm going to give the button an ID. Let's see, sum button. Okay, down in my function, I'm going to make one little change. So it's showing the sum in the console log. I'm also going to want to show it in the H1. So here's where you're going to need to use some logic to access the DOM. Okay. You'll need to go into your book in section 5.1, and in section 5.1 you'll see statements down below. It's a bit of a ways down here. Right? This is how you can access an element on your page. You can call the getElementById method. Now the first part of that statement is document, the second part then is the method you're calling, and what you need to do is you need to tell it which element, the ID of the element that you want to reference. So to make a change to some text, you can use this next part, right? So it's modifying the attributes. One of the attributes is the content that displays. Did I scroll right past? I just want to show you right here, this inner HTML property. Right, so it's going to get or set, meaning it's going to modify, or sorry, retrieve or modify a DOM node's content. So we want to do the modifying. And so to do the modifying or the setting, let's go back to our code, and our statement would look like this. So it's document dot get element by ID. Okay, that's the method. And inside we have to tell it what ID, and this is going to be the ID of the H1. And you're going to change the property inner HTML. And we're going to set that property equal to this, right? X plus Y. X plus Y. We just want to show the answer. Okay, so that part is done. Your function is updated, so now that it shows the answer in the console, it's also going to show it in the H1. Now up here, the H1 looks good, the button looks good, but we need one last thing, and that is the onclick event. So I'm going to add an attribute to this button. It's called onclick. This is an attribute, and when onclick occurs, what I want to have happen is I want you to go out and find display sum. Now, display sum needs to know two things inside of the list, right? So we have to give it a 1 and a 2. So let's give it two values. I'm going to give it 44 and 3. So now when the user clicks the button, right, on click, it's going to go out to display sum, where display sum is now called the event handler, and it's going to send the 44 and the 3. And I just want to add one thing here. I want some text to display on my button. Click me for sum. Now, I do want to explain one thing. This will happen with the button, but I also have display sum being called here. So the first time display sum gets called, it's going to display the 15, right? It's going to send in the 5, it's going to send in the 10, it's going to call display sum, it'll come down here, it'll do all of this, it'll show 15 here, and then if you click on the button, it calls display sum again with new numbers. So let's try that. Okay, and now here's the 15 because that was the first time that the function ran. And let me display what's going on in the console, right? So this is in the console. You have the 5, the 10, the 15, displays the 15 in the H1. Now watch what happens when I click me for sum. Okay, so we get the 44, the 3, and now the 47 displaying here. So what happened was we called the function a second time, and it overwrote and deleted the 15 and displayed the 47 instead. So just some things to be aware of when you're writing these functions. I want to demonstrate one last thing, and what happens if I take this statement away, right? If I take this statement away, it's not going to send the 5, it's not going to send the 15, it's not going to go to display sum and do it, the summing with the 5 and the 15. So when I launch the page, I'm not going to see anything at all, but when I click the button, it'll only use the 44 and the 3. So take a look at how that works. And I want to show you one more little tip. What's helpful is when you look at how your code runs. So if you go over to sources, just give me a minute and I'll find the file. Okay, when you go over to sources, it should pull up your code as long as it has room to do so. It just didn't have room when I did it before. And notice that display sum is not being called here, but it gets called from the button. So I'm going to put a little break right here. If you click on the line number, it'll stop, right? And so notice that it's not putting the stop on the name of the function, but rather on the next line of code, which is fine. That's what you want. And now I'm going to click the button, and it's going to stop here. So you can see what happens. Right? And so now here it's stopping, and if I hover my mouse over the X, it shows you that the X is the 44. It shows you that here as well, which is kind of nice. And the Y is the 3. Okay, and then you can step through your code. This is a step to the next line, step to the next line, right? So it shows you that Y is 3. Now another step, okay? And if I go over to the console, I'll see the 47, but let's hold off for a minute here. And now there's the document.getElementById, which shows the 47 there. Go to the console, there's the 47 there.